If there's one thing I learned from this episode, it's that I still got a lot to learn in podcasting. Let's all learn together from the Professor DJ Mo Twister. Welcome to the J Aruga Show. Everybody, please welcome the Philippine genius, DJ Mo Twister.
That's an exaggeration. Like, it's supposed to be what's the word? Sarcastic.
Oh, really?
And yeah, no, I'm not genius level by any means. It really was just a joke, and I think the joke was because I was interviewing. Might have been Hillary Clinton, who ran for U.S. president against Donald Trump.
There was no. I remember that was
back.
Long ago when you interviewed Hillary. She went to.
I know, but I'm just saying. If you guys don't know who she is, she ran for U.S. president a couple of years ago against Donald Trump. But at the time when I interviewed her, she was Secretary of the State the United States, and it was kind of like a joke or something like that. Or I don't remember if this is where Philippine Genius came about, but. I asked her hey, can you make a plug for my podcast, right? For my radio show. And she was like, okay, like, do I say something really cool? And I say, yeah, like say Philippine Genius. You know, it's really a sarcastic thing. And and because she did it and she's so credible of a world figure, I was like, well, that's it. I'm a fucking genius. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
No bad words.
Sorry. Yeah, then it just became this thing, and I don't know, but I'm not genius by any means, please.
No.
Yeah.
I would love to give you a better intro than that, but everyone knows you already. Baka hindi ko mabigyan ng justice.
It's fine. No, it's fine. I'm kidding. Okay, but anyway, what's up? Hey, Jay, thanks.
Yeah, I was about to say the artist behind the multi-platinum album got 2 words for you.
No, that's even a bigger lie. That's even a bigger lie than Philippine Genius. So. But Jay, thanks for having me here.
I bought that album, by the way.
You bought that album? No, that was a mistake.
Yeah. No,
that was a mistake.
But to be honest, I just bought it for a sandwich. Sorry.
That's the only reason you should buy it for then, because that's probably the best song there. I mean, not to take away from, say, the one Parokya made. Chito made a song for me there. That was actually really, really good as well. So outside of that, those are probably the only two.
Gems in there.
Not gems, maybe some surprises, but not gems. But okay, anyway, cool. It's nice to have you. It's nice to have. What am I saying? I feel like this is my podcast. Thank you for inviting me here. I appreciate it.
This is not an interview. It's just a conversation. You can ask me whatever you want.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Yeah.
Congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is. I was trying to propose to my wife via podcast because I am very awkward in person. I am not a very, I'm kind of always been this torpe type of guy. And I, even with my wife or fiance, it's technically fiance, but we call each other husband and wife. Even with my wife, who I've been with for 8 years, and we've been through like the ups and downs, and we've got a family and all that. Even then, I'm still terrified to like get on a knee and then do all of the traditional stuff. Yeah, so I thought, a good way to go about it is use the podcast. Because in the podcast, I'm most courageous. Like that's where I'm most bold on my podcast. So kung kailangan ko ng fuel or energy para gawin yung proposal, which I'm very awkward and medyo torpe, gagawin ko na lang sa podcast because I'm most courageous there. So it worked out.
That was a very slick move.
Okay, yeah. I'm just telling you right now, it's not romantic. It's because I was scared. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm a long-time listener. Mula pa nung kina Mojo and Andy Nine. Nung sila pa yung co-host mo. I never called.
Yeah.
But I tweet sometimes.
Okay, that's fine.
I tweet sometimes sa show. Kinikilig ako pag binabasa mo yung tweet ko. One tweet I'm very proud of. I'm sure hindi mo na naalala to kasi you got a lot of tweets. But one time you guested Bernard Palanca sa Forbidden Questions. Then nagsabi siya ng list niya ng mga allegedly he slept with.
Celebrities he slept with.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Then I tweeted you, "Hey, BJ has a list, and I think we can narrow it down to 3 categories: Viva hot babes, daughters of powerful men, and Ira Cruz's girlfriends." Right. So that's my tweet.
Ira Cruz's girlfriends are, let's see,
Mylene,
he dated Mylene Dizon, Fem Miranda,
Nicole,
right?
Nicole. Is that Nicole?
Essential.
Yeah,
the singer
Essential.
Nicole. Yeah, something like that. I think is her name. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
that's right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, let me not thank me. I mean, good for him. Congratulations, BJ Palanta. Right. Anyway.
Yeah, cool. I'm a long enough fan to know that you don't like the word fan. Sorry, I used the word fan.
Yes, I don't.
You like the word listener instead. Because
listener is probably the most. I guess what's the term here?
Because fan came from the word fanatic.
Right, and I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like fan. I never really people call. In fact, if I call you a fan, I'm insulting you. Mm-hmm, it's not. I use it as an insult on social media. If you guys are arguing with me, and it kind of gets nasty, I just say, "Hey, well, you're just a fan. Like you're nothing." You know, that's kind of my go-to. That's my go-to insult with people on social media. I don't like calling people who support the show, who listen to the podcast, who listen to the radio show, who support me, weirdly to say enough. I don't like calling them fans, because I don't like the word. I prefer, I don't know, I prefer listener because that's the most literal. You listen to me, but I don't want to use the word friends because that's just another.
That's a stretch.
Like fluffy, it's a fluffy way. It feels condescending. Like it almost feels insulting if you say, "Oh, like you're not a fan, you're a friend."
Listener's fine.
You know, so I just go with listener for the lack of a better term, but I really don't like the word fan.
Speaking of fanatics, whose fans are the most rabid ones? Celebrities. I know there are times that you say
it's got to be the DDS right now. It's probably got to be the DDS because with the DDS and their fan base, and I'm not sure if you're DDS.
No.
Insult you. Okay, so whatever. But you might have some listeners who are DDS. I think their fan base is the most rabid because it is clear. It is clearly obvious that the person that they are fanatics about is so far from what his cause is. Like the president is a phony, okay? And I'm talking about the president sa Pilipinas as well as here sa US. Now, his fan base, his DDS fan base, are also delusional. They've come to a point where I think they're blinded by their fandom. And they're so aggressive, and they're paid like on social media. That's been proven. That's been proven by Facebook and all of that. That they actually are paid to attack. So that's the rabid part of their fan base, and even the subtle ones. Na hindi binabayaran para lang tweet or Facebook post or anything. Even those people, I find them to be fanatical. Clearly, he is nothing that he says he is. And yet you still believe it. So that's the worst fan base in the world right now. The leaders of both the U.S. and the Philippines.
I don't think that anyone should be a fan of politicians anyway. We should always keep an eye on our politicians. You can be a fan of anyone except for politicians.
Right. I mean, if we use the word fan, but if you can say believe in a person, we can use other terms. I mean, if it's semantics, fine. Yeah, let's not use the word fan. But in its feeling and its confidence in one person, like I could say I'm confident in the abilities of, in the U.S. at least, Senator Bernie Sanders. Sa Pilipinas, who do I feel strongly about in terms of being in good governance? Gosh, I'll get back to that one. But I see what you're saying. Maybe being a fanatic about a person who's elected to serve the public is kind of a weird mindset.
Yeah, we should always scrutinize whatever they do, is what I'm coming from.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I'm with you.
Yeah. Let's go to podcast topics. I was talking to Sam O a few episodes back, and I was telling her, because she came up with a podcast as well. And I was telling her that thanks to you, Mo, if not for your Good Times podcast, baka hindi nag-take off yung podcast industry dito sa Pinas. We owe that to you.
I disagree with that so much. I disagree with that. I can't disagree with that term even more. And this is me being awkward from the beginning of this show. Show, Jay, your show. I've always been very awkward with any compliment that you.
Yes, sorry if I seem to because you're behind a lot.
No, you're not. You're being a nice host, and that's fine. And I've heard that. I heard that yesterday. I heard somebody else who's got a podcast more popular than mine say that same exact line. I'm just telling you that that's not true.
But
I understand my place in history.
But before your podcast, in the Philippines, at least, I don't know of any.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's kind of settle this whole without Mo. There's no podcast industry. Okay. I didn't invent podcasting. It was invented by somebody else, right? And I just jumped in on it like everybody else. The only difference between me and say maybe you or Sam or just anybody out there is that I did it early. Now, am I the first podcast in the Philippines? Maybe. In fact, I probably would say yes, maybe. I can't prove that, but I don't think anyone sa atin heard the word podcast when I had one and knew what it was locally sa Pilipinas yet. Okay? I'm not saying na dahil sa akin, you guys understood what a podcast was. No, I completely disagree with that. The only thing I'm going to claim, if I'm going to claim any of these compliments, is that I got in early. That's true. I started my podcast 10 years ago. Okay. I did not know of any other podcast in the Philippines whatsoever. But to say that kung walang podcasting or dahil sa akin may podcasting sa Pilipinas, that would be an incorrect statement. Okay. Eventually, somebody would have done it. I just happened to do it either first or very, very, very early. However, Jay, I really do appreciate the energy behind what you're saying. Like, that's really a compliment. And I'm going to take it as a compliment. I'm going to take it as something you're saying to me because maybe I inspired you to have a podcast. And if that's the case, that's great. I feel good about it. But fact check wise, I'm not the reason why there's podcasting in the Philippines. But I do appreciate the energy behind it.
I'll tell you right now, you inspired me to do a podcast later because your first podcast, Good Times in Mo podcast, is a big production. So it is. Whole team, studio, guest, callers.
Gastos.
You inspired me to come up with this podcast later when you were doing it all on your own and releasing in an audio format only instead of a video audio.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And you know what? That's true. It is much easier now to do a podcast by yourself without having an elaborate team. You can do it alone. I do it alone. I started doing it with a team of like maybe 10. And then through the years, lumaki pa nga eh. Went from 10 to like 15 and the TV aspect. Billboards. I had EDSA billboard for the podcast. There was electronic billboards on PBA games. Even though nasa US ako, I would see people record videos of during the timeout while the teams are discussing their plans for the next play. You'll see GTWM plugs on the big screen. I'm like, wow, how far this has gotten. And now it's in its simplest form where it's a one-man show, myself, no team. And it's easier now to do than ever before. And I think, maybe it inspires people to go, oy, ang dali lang pala. It's not, hindi naman kailangan may billboard, hindi naman kailangan may producer, hindi naman kailangan may, you can just do it by yourself. Now, you can have a team still. You can have a team of 2, 3, 4, but it's not necessary. It might just be good for the show to have more people work on it, especially if people have different expertise levels at technical and creative and editorial and all of that. But, I mean, you can do it alone, too. And I do it alone. And it's totally fine.
Okay. All I'm saying is, teach me, Mo. now that you're here?
My wife has been bugging me about this. Gusto niya na mag-workshop ako sa online and
Really?
Do an online podcast workshop for everybody who wants to do it. And I don't even know if I'm equipped enough. I know my abilities. I know this industry. I could say, fine, maybe I'm an expert level at it. But I always find a workshop to be kind of douchey because it's like, I'm the Philippine genius. You have to listen to me. You can tell already, I think, Jay, from the start of the show, I'm not very good with compliments. I'm not very good with confidence and all of that stuff. I'm not saying that I have self-esteem issues. It's just I hate being in the middle of something and taking credit or telling people I'm the best. I hate it. So when my wife says, "Hey, can you do a workshop for podcasting?" My answer is no, because it gives the impression na ako yung pinakamagaling, and that's not the truth. Like it's not. I know a lot about it. I'll tell you that. And if you want me to teach you, I'll teach you. But I don't want to be labeled as some kind of guru or anything like that. Because I make mistakes.
Yeah, I think for me, the struggle for myself in podcasting is dito sa mga gantong interviews. I think I'm okay sa episodes where I just give my thoughts because I can record and just do retakes. And dito sa mga gantong interviews, what advice can you give people? I know it's awkward because
first of all, here's my. What's your background? Like before this, were you a musician? You look like a musician. You look like John. Like I'm looking at your video right now. So you look like a musician or an artist?
I was a musician.
Okay, so what do you play?
Guitar. I sometimes sing.
Sing a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my tips. Okay. So as a musician, you know naman that you're on the other side, right? Yeah, you're just reacting to questions that are being thrown at you. And on this end, you actually have to come up with stuff. I would write things down. Like, that's me. I know other hosts, they like to just talk. They want to go with the flow. I hate that. I prepare. It might sound like on the radio that I'm not prepared. It might sound like wow, he comes up with all of these questions and he relates it to whatever they're talking about right now. No, that's preparation. I write everything down. And I wait for my moment to ask questions. I don't just ask it because it's number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay, first question. Tell me about you growing up. Second question, what's your favorite? I don't do that. I try my best to have a list of questions I want to ask. And then whenever there's an opening, because what the person is talking about is slightly related to one of my 15 questions, I will go out of order. And I think that's a really big key for me. It's so funny because I just said that I'm awkward with compliments and I don't want to be self-praising, but I'm going to be a hypocrite. I think on the radio and on podcasting, nobody interviews better than I do. Like, I feel it. Like, I know it. I want to know it in my heart that I'm the best. I don't want to say it out here. I know I'm telling you, but this is more advice. That's why I don't want to claim to be it. But I would, when I'm sitting down in an interview, I truly, truly believe no one is better at this in our country than I am. And that confidence in myself in that moment really helps me in the interview. Because I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm the best at this craft. I have to prove it. And here's how I'm going to prove it. And I have a plan. And it's kind of weird because interviews are supposed to be for the audience, for them to get to know the guest and to maybe ask questions you probably won't hear on other shows. That's one of my really big things. Ask questions you're not going to hear on other shows. But when I'm sitting there, I truly feel like it's a challenge for me to showcase to all of you that I'm the best. It's not really about my guest. It's about me. It's about wanting to tell everybody, hey, look, watch me crush this interview. It's a very weird mentality. I don't want to be open and honest about it, but I'm telling you as advice. When you sit here and you're interviewing me on this show, and I'm a very difficult interview because I talk a lot. Diba? It's really difficult to interview someone like me.
No. You do the work for me, so that's fine.
Well, that's the thing, though. If I do all the work for you, then people who listen to the show go, "Oh, well, Jay just got freaking. He just sat there while Mo did everything." I want you to come into it and go, "I'm going to show everybody that I can hang with him. I'm going to show everyone that I can be just as blank as, in this case, Mo, or anybody you bring here." If you end up getting an interview with a politician, which I do every now and then, obviously, alam ko, the politician knows more about politics than me because I'm not a politician, right? But I take the interview as a challenge to show everyone I can hang with this guy. So a couple of weeks ago, I had Senator Angara on the program. And before I got him on the show, his staff was like, "You can't ask about the anti-terror bill. You can't ask about this. You can't ask about that." And I'm like, "Are you out of your mind?" So the moment he gets on the show, boom, I'm asking because I want everybody to know I'm going to hang with this guy. And I'm going to be whatever he throws at me as an answer. I'm going to give you an interview where you're going to not get what everybody else is getting. So I grill him on it. I say, "Hey, Senator, not only are we going to talk about it, but your staff told me I can't talk about it. Now I'm really going to talk about it." It becomes that. And I think that's entertaining. I think it's entertaining. And I think it's real. So my advice to you when you get into an interview, Jay, sorry, I'm being all Mr. Know-it-all.
No. is
to hang with them. Like, no matter who they are. They're just a human being. I'm just a human being, Jay. As in, tatae ako in about an hour from now. Kakain ako. Gonna, do normal people things. And I had a childhood, and I had parents, and I had failures, and I was a laughingstock, and I have failed publicly. You go on YouTube and you can see me cry. And I've been suspended, and I've had a lot of failures and a lot of successes, and I'm just human. So when you get on with someone like me, like, let's just don't look at me as genius. Don't look at me as, "Oh, I have a podcast because Mo has a podcast." No, just look at me as like a human being. And I struggle with the daily stuff that everybody struggles with. And I think that mindset makes the interview more because now we're just friends, and we're just we're at this point right now. You and I are peers. You're a podcast host. I'm a podcast host. We host our own shows. We talk to people. There's nothing different between you and I. And that's a mindset I would probably go with. And then lastly, on a technical note, I would move your microphone, and I would actually use your omnidirectional microphone. I would actually turn it because your audio quality would be better.
Really?
That's a technical.
Really?
Yes, really.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yes, really. Yeah. So turn your microphone that way, and you're going to sound so much better.
Really? I thought the microphone receivers on this
no,
side.
It's that microphone specifically, I believe, is an omnidirectional microphone, so it will only work at its best because I have the same microphone. And if I here's the difference between talking on the side and listen to the audio. So if I was talking to you like this and I was doing the interview like this, you can hear me, but then when I actually make it in the front, it actually sounds better. You now sound better to me, but that's just I'm a nut for the technical stuff.
Yeah. So. I'll go back to what you said about being like friends with the interviewee, because my weakness is I get starstruck, and like right now.
How do you combat that?
Yeah, how do you? I met Lord Vera once, and I was thinking, say something smart, and then nothing came out of my mouth. It's like blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I think it's going to go back to what I just said, though, Jay. It's understanding that I am no more special or no less special than you. I know it's hard to, say, invite somebody. Okay, here's my example. Do you follow sports?
No.
Not really. Basketball?
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
It's all right.
Let's say music. Okay.
Yeah.
If I was going to interview Ed Sheeran about playing the guitar, beatboxing, and being a one-man show on stage, because that's what he does. He goes on stage, he doesn't have a band, he just does everything himself. It's really insane. And I was a musician as well, but I had nowhere near the experience that Sheeran had. I would be terrified because I'm trying to be an equal, as I told you to be an equal. I'm trying to be an equal with one of the best. So I would get starstruck.
Yeah.
But what I would try my best to do also is, and I said this a little while ago, is realize that the guy makes mistakes too. And I might even have a better life than him. There's no real reason to be starstruck because the guy's just a human being. Like right now, Jay, you're sitting in your office. I'm looking at your office, and I'm sitting in my office, and your office looks like my office. They have a lot of toys in the background. Like I've got Voltron, and you've got what looks like, I don't know, Star Wars figures.
That's right.
And stuff like that, right? So so clearly you're into that stuff, right? And if I sat here and tried to out Star Wars you in a topic, I'm just gonna get embarrassed. Okay. So what I then will do is understand that you had a beginning some point in your Star Wars, call it fandom, right? And so did I. And we can talk about our roots and it'll humanize us. Like you can go, hey Mo, tell me about the early struggles about podcasting. And I'll say, oh yeah, ganito, again. And you'll be like, oh, that's what I'm going through right now. All of a sudden you and I are equal, in our experience. That's how I lessen my starstruckness by understanding that at some point this person was a beginner. He was a rookie. He was, or she was, making a ton of mistakes. And that before Ed Sheeran got on stage as he is today, he did not know what he was doing at some point in his life. He wasn't always the master of his craft. And that's how I personally remove starstruckness, I guess.
Okay. One thing I got from what you said is the preparation.
Yeah. I sometimes I even go as far as typing my intro. It's not just the questions; it's everything. I'll type a paragraph of what I will say word for word. I think I have the ability to sound like I'm not reading. That's just from practice. Television, live television, that has helped me. Live radio has helped me sound like I'm not reading, but I'm reading. I'm telling you right now. That's if you think if you think I'm making it up, I'm not making it up. I'm reading my words.
Especially in the morning show, I guess.
Yes, I have my notes, and I write my notes. I write a script, and I read it. So that's my preparation. It's not all natural, spontaneous ad lib ability. A lot of it truly is prepared. I read it. So that's what I do. I have a Microsoft Word file. It's huge. It's got 85 pages of just notes and things to say, and I just wait for the moment to do it.
So one big struggle for me in podcasting is on the marketing aspect. What's the best marketing strategies that you can share us? I have a big. Let me just tell you a story. I have a big, epic, failed marketing attempt before. So I have this episode entitled "Did Jesus Exist?" and I made an ad in Facebook. So one of those sponsored ads that pops up from nowhere, and the ad says, "Totoo ba si Jesus o gawa-gawa lang siya ng mga early Christians noon? Makinig sa latest episode to learn to defend the existence of Christ." Then all of a sudden, nabash ako ng mga Christians dahil ang nabasa lang nila is yung first line. Totoo ba si Jesus o gawa-gawa lang? Then they call me Satan worshiper. Minura nila ako. Very un-Christian-like behavior.
So, yeah, but I don't let that affect me. Like I would go with the same freaking headline if I were you. I don't think that was a mistake.
Okay.
I think there's when you market it, there's all parts. There's small parts clickbait. That's like that headline is meant to ever so slightly clickbait, right? It's like, did Jesus really exist? Like you're going to get a reaction. You're almost enticing people to I dare you, come listen to my thoughts. I'm okay with that. Like just as long as you're actually going to talk about Jesus.
What I learned is people just read the first line from that experience.
Yeah, and I think when you buy a book at a bookstore, the title is so important. It's just as important as the book itself. It's what you're going to get. The design of the book is what is going to entice people to jump in on it, because a book is a time consuming endeavor, right? So how are you going to tell somebody who has 5 seconds to donate 10 hours of their time? Well, you have to have a strong headline. So I'm not against what you said, and you're right. People are going to look at the headline. The thing is, how are you going to back it up? Then that's the difference between clickbait and just good marketing. Like if I told you, hey, win 1 million pesos by clicking on this, and when you click on it, wala naman talaga eh. It's like some kind of money, multi-level marketing scheme or something. That's clickbait. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. You'll lose everybody forever. But just as long as you stay true to your headline. If your headline is controversial, the episode better be controversial. Like if your headline is bold, your statements and content should be bold. So I'm okay with you going that route. You just have to be prepared to receive the backlash that you're going to receive. And if you're too sensitive for everyone's opinion about you, then you shouldn't go with those kinds of headlines. You have to really be thick-skinned and not let it affect you, and be bold to back up what you claim. So that's maybe another piece of advice if you're going to go that route. I have no problem again with your headline. You can't do it if you're sensitive though.
What other marketing strategies can you share?
This is probably the hardest part of podcasting for me, because I'm not maximizing my marketing capability. I'll tell you though, I'll be honest, podcasting is the most lucrative job I have. It makes the most money. And what's crazy is, even though it makes the most money for me, I don't market it well enough. Like I wait for people to come to me before I go to them. So hindi ako yung tipong, sige, mag-set up tayo ng meeting, ito yung proposal ko, ito yung mga rates ko and all of that. I don't do that. I wait for somebody to message me on IG and say, hi, Mo, I work for this company and we want to advertise on your show. And then I accept it. And funny, again, to sit here and say it's the most lucrative thing I do, imagine how much more lucrative it would be if I just had the energy to go out and look for advertisers and stuff like that. My first season of the podcast, I was making 1 million pesos a month. On the podcast. That's net. That's everything. And that's what I put in my pocket with the podcast. Season 1. Imagine that. A month. Like it was so lucrative. I was like, oh my God. Like I'm making so much money off of this thing. I don't know what to do with it. Like excuse the yabang part of the I'm just trying to tell you how amazing it could be if you tried. And the difference between season 1 and season 7 is that nung season 1, akala ko I needed to go into the meetings. So pumunta ako sa meetings. I'll go to the meetings in front of the marketing team and go, this is Good Times with Mo, the podcast. No holds barred. I'm like, I'm sales pitch. What on Shark Tank, if you ever watched the TV show Shark Tank. I'm standing up there and I'm dancing around telling people, I have this show. You guys don't know what a podcast is, but it's awesome. Blah, 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 blah. And then the company would be like, okay, we'll put ads. Magkano yung ads? I go, ito, magkano? Tingnan mo yung ads. Sobrang mura lang. Hindi katulad ng TV. Hindi katulad ng radyo. Sa radyo, 8,000 pesos for 30 seconds. Sa podcast, 500 pesos lang. I just do that. Please come to my show. So that hard work paid off. I was making 1 million pesos a month on podcasting because nandun ako sa mga meetings and all that stuff. Cut to season 7, season 6, and then the more recent iterations of the podcast. I have a family now. I live abroad, so I can't go to the meetings. I'm not energetic enough anymore to go on a front of a group of people and ask them for their money. And I don't have the energy anymore to create a poster and all of that stuff that you need to market your product. Now I just sit here and I wait for them to call me. And if they call me, it'd be okay. So I'm nowhere near making 1 million pesos a month on the podcast right now. Nowhere near that. But I'm making enough to still have it be the most lucrative job I have. It still makes more money than my day job at the US. It still makes more money than my radio salary. It's still really good. But I've lost that marketing desire. even though I know that the desire equates to more and more money. So if you're going to ask me, how do I market my podcast? Oh gosh, my answer is you have to work hard. You have to jump in front of the people and go, hey, everybody, look at me, blah, 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 blah. You have to use your social media. Like now, what I do is, because I have a pretty good following, I'm not the followed podcaster, but I have 150,000 on Instagram. I have 1.2 million on Twitter. So it's okay, right? Enough for me to sell. So what I'll do is I'll tell them, okay, kasi yung mga brands right now, I feel like gusto nila yung social media. Like that's the number one thing they're going for. So ang ginagawa ko, how I do it is I say, sige, I will post about your product, pero in addition, I will put your ad on my podcast, Yeah. And they're like, ano yun? And again, podcasting is, then I'm like, tell them about it again, blah, 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 blah. It's like a commercial.
Yeah.
So when they hear the podcast and they hear the commercial, they actually get more feedback from the podcast ad than my my Instagram ad. So ang nangyayari for me, and this is just for me, Jay, they'll message me and they go, ano mo, sa lahat ng platforms that you promoted our product, it was on the podcast that we got the most like phone calls or emails or visits. So yung podcast na lang natin yung i-prioritize natin. And I go, oh, perfect. And that's how I make money off of it, because they don't believe in the product until it starts to show. And I know my podcast is popular, and I know that people listen to it. So I think it's just a matter of time that they will realize that as well and start investing in it. And that's how I market my show. I would be making more money though if I worked a little harder on it,
Well, what's the better call to action to your audience to promote your podcast? Because in my mind, asking them to like, I think that has no bearing. Asking them to share, subscribe.
Right. CJ, it's tough because it's like the restaurant business. Diba? We're all good cooks. We all think we're good cooks. Diba? We all, sige, pang restaurant quality tong dish ko na to. Sige, gagawa ko ng sarili kong restaurant or gagawa ko ng sarili kong business and stuff. And yet it could be a year or two before anyone ever really wants to come inside and dine, no matter how good your food is, because the marketing is everything, right? But I always believe that the moment it takes off, you try, you market, you get your word out. It once it starts to spread, it can spread like wildfire. Like I have friends who have restaurants that for 2 years no one ever stepped in, and then one day a celebrity came in, and from now, like I'm speaking about a specific restaurant. Now to get into that restaurant, it's like a 3-hour, 2-hour wait to get in there because they got that one person that gave them a break. I think you just working hard. Like for example, you say, "Oh, hey Mo, can you guest on my podcast?" Sure. And what if we say something so amazing in the next hour? And enough people listen to it, that might just be that one thing that gets you to take off. I play the viral route, which is really the lazy person's way to go about it. Like I'm having a hard time answering your question, Jay, because you seem to be way more hardworking than I am. I am content with my figures. I'm happy with where the podcast is. I would like for it to grow, but I'm not going to be out there posting about it every day. Oh, brand new episode. Check it out. You'll never really see me do that. If you go to my Instagram, there's no brand new episode. I-download mo. I don't do that. I'm happy with who's listening to the show. And I'm happy with them being enough for me right now. So it's hard. It's hard because I've got a following. I've got a following already. So if you don't have a following, it's hard. You just have to put good products out there and work really, really work your ass off.
I heard it's better though to have a few zealots of your show than a million non-engaging followers. At least the zealots can help in the word of mouth.
Yeah, that's true. I would say so. It depends what your goals are, though. I think if you have 1 million listeners, if your show gets 1 million downloads, and they're not very engaged and they don't interact, they don't spread the word and all of that, 1 million still counts for something. It counts for money if you're looking to monetize. The zealots, the fan base, the fanatics, the loyals, they want the merch. They want to buy the shirt. They want to, I get a lot of that. Hey, when are you gonna have a shirt come out? Like, I want to buy a shirt. And I'm like, oh man, that's okay. I promise I'll work on it. I get all awkward. I say, okay, fine, I'll do that. Sorry, where was I? There's value in both. I wouldn't say there's one is better than the other. I personally, for my personal enrichment, of course, enjoy the ones that are engaged more. Kahit 5,000 lang sila. 5,000 true hardcore followers of the show. I enjoy them. Pero kung sasabihin mo sa akin na I'll get 1 million downloads and kahit yung mga 1 million mga bobo lang sila and all of that stuff, okay lang din sa akin eh. Because like, if you go on YouTube and I look at some of the old past episodes, let's say the Ellen Adarna episode, Forbidden Questions. In total, that was, I think it's like 7 million on YouTube, which is not even my channel. That's like some like follower put that up there.
And then my podcast mo.
Yeah, and then my own personal like numbers on iTunes was like another 5 million or whatever. That's a 10 to 12 million downloaded episode. Like that's the best I've ever done on one episode. But when I look at the comment section of an episode that has 12 million views or downloads, look at the quality of the people messaging. They're all morons. Like they're just idiots. They're not like the true
logs of the
listenership.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the true followers of the show. They're just dumbasses. And then you're right. It's like, do I want 1 million stupid people? Or do I want 5,000 quality people listening to the show? That you answer that. Do you like quality over quantity? There's value in both, though. Because I can sit here and be proud of myself that, my Ellen Adarna episode did 12 million. I can sit here with my chest out and go, ang galing-galing, tingnan mo, 12 million downloads. Di hell yeah. Magaling ako, all that stuff. But then tingnan mo naman yung mga comments, ang tanga-tanga mga tao, di ba? They're all stupid. So and then I'm like, maybe I would just rather stick to my 5,000 to 7,000 following, but all of them engage and spread the word and promote and feel good about your work. It really is up to you.
You mentioned monetizing. Monetizing in podcast is harder than in YouTube because in YouTube they have a more organized way to earn. I believe in Anchor you have a monetization scheme as well, but they're more on the US podcast. Sana
right. Yeah, sana all. Right.
Yeah.
But I think they will, because Spotify Philippines has launched recently, and I have no doubt that they will be able to have a monetized aspect to Anchor because Spotify owns Anchor, and I'm assuming in the next few, might even be just months, Anchor.Philippines or Anchor.ph is going to be a thing where you guys are going to be able to monetize handsomely for your work. So don't feel bad about it right now. I'm really, really confident that Spotify will launch an Anchor Philippines. Really confident.
Okay.
That news. I have a meeting with them on Friday. Actually, I have a meeting with them on Friday.
Really?
So I will ask them for your sake if that's going to be the case, because I think that's a frustration right now for Philippine podcasts na yung mga US based lang ang kumikita from their numbers.
Spotify is going all out right now. Their acquisition of Joe Rogan is a big move to podcasting, and
it is.
I hope mag-trickle down dito sa Pinas yung
I think it will. Yeah, I think it will. And yeah, I mean they're doing great right now, and they're expanding, and that's the kind of stuff again that we need talaga for Philippine podcasts, the future of Philippine podcasts, and it will be there. I'm really confident.
Okay. Most of the time sa Good Times with Mo podcast, so this is not about podcasting, it's just about something I learned from you. And if there's a wild caller, you ask her, because sometimes girl yung caller, you ask her where her father is.
Yeah.
Recently, you're featured sa ABS-CBN lifestyle website.
Was I?
Oh, God rest their soul.
Right.
ABS-CBN.
Yeah.
About being a father. And how it changed your life for the better. Do you think society doesn't emphasize the importance of fatherhood enough these days? Because you can see them portrayed as idiots in sitcoms. Sometimes doofus.
Wait. Who's portrayed as idiots?
Dads, like the Homer Simpsons. Yeah. Like my kids are see me as like they think
joke.
I'm about to do something bad. Kung may gagawin ako sa bahay, they're afraid that I'll mess it up.
Yeah. Right.
I guess my question is on fatherhood. Yeah.
So there's a little bit going on in there. That question, like, there's a couple of parts where does society not emphasize the importance of being a father, or having a father? I don't think they don't emphasize. Like they're not negatively saying fathers are not that important, but I think we are more now applauding the single parent and making the single parent. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. My iPad fell down. Making the single parent like a hero and saying that it's okay, and it is okay. It's okay to be a single parent. It's okay to raise a child by yourself if that's what life has brought to your door.
But let's say in the US, the welfare states, they incentivize single parents.
Oh, this is not a welfare state. Trust me, this is so far. This is the least welfare state in the freaking world. Australia, Canada, those are like, those are states that support stuff like this. I mean, in Australia, if you're a single parent, they give you money to help you. Here in the US, you're just on your own. If you call an ambulance and the ambulance takes you to the hospital because you're sick, that costs 150,000 pesos. Just the ride alone costs you like 150,000 pesos. And that's because you can't even drive yourself to the hospital. This country is a disaster in terms of how it helps its citizens. It is the least. It's the most frustrating country to live in.
But
don't ever move to the US.
But back to what you're saying about single parents.
Yeah, but I think we're trying to champion single parents right now. And that's a good thing. However, there might be consequences to it wherein like, okay, I might try less then to be in a family with mom and dad around. Because okay naman yung single parents. Okay lang, kaya pa naman ng babae, kaya naman ng lalaki kahit wala yung partner niya. And ang pinaka-importanting bagay yung quality time and all of that stuff. I believe that to a certain extent. I think it's still best that if you have a child, and even if it doesn't work out with mom or dad or whatever, that you both really truly have to be there every single day for them. And the moment that you're not, and if you go, okay, well, single parents are better off now than ever. Like, let's say, in this case, you said, where's your dad? So let's say the single mom is raising the child. And they're okay. She's a strong woman. She's got a good job. She can care for her, fend for herself, all that champion stuff, right? It just so happens so often that people who call the show, girls especially who call the show, who find themselves in bad relationships with older men, married men, cheating men, and just kind of really crappy boyfriends. It just so happens the great majority of the time, I ask them, where's your dad? And they go, he left. He left us. Or, wala, nag-abroad. Wala, di na bumalik. So, your mom could have been great. Your mom could have been this amazing single mom and she powered through all of life's challenges. But it didn't change that it hurt you. And it hurts these girls especially, that their father has just left them. And they then are bringing in men in their life who resemble their crappy father. And that's a problem. So I want you as a father, you and everybody else listening, to be engaged in the lives of your children as much as you can, even if maybe your relationship hasn't worked out. And before, say, you even break up with your wife or girlfriend and you have a family, think twice, think thrice, think 4 times about making the relationship work for the sake of your children. If you're gonna have kids, your life is now your children. Nothing else. I don't give a F about your happiness. I don't give an F about your bucket list. I don't give an F about anything else that you had planned for your life. When you have children, they are your priority. They are number one. And anything else outside of that, I mean, I'm not saying to completely disregard your own personal happiness, but you have to think about their lives first before yours. And if that means you're going to be in an unhappy place, so what? Suck it up. You're a father.
Okay. Thanks,
if it's not as fun anymore, suck it up. Stop crying like a little bitch. Do it.
Mo, thanks for your pearls of wisdom. That's a very
thanks, man. Wow, that's a
very old
reference.
An old school
term, man.
That's a very
that's
old
an
reference.
old school term.
Yeah,
I don't say that anymore. I should get back to that.
Yeah. Hey, I know you're very busy, and I thank you so much for giving me this chance to talk to you. I thank you for all the advice that you've given us here in this podcast. Aside from your Good Times with Mo podcast and the morning show, what else are your other rackets?
Well, I mean, I live here in the U.S. now, so I have a day job that I do. So I'm out of say the traditional showbiz environment. So for me, the only thing I can actually promote, which takes up quite a bit of my time, is both the radio show and the podcast.
Oh, okay.
So it's the thing that I love most anyway. I mean, the radio show has been a part of my life for 25 years.
I remember your anniversary is 666.
666. Yeah, for the morning show. For the morning show, it's 666. But I started when I was 17, and I'm 42 now. So it's been a long time. So the radio show is really important for me. And this pandemic has really crushed our radio industry and has really opened it up for podcasting, though, which is kind of a good thing. But yeah, download the podcast, interact, call the show, talk to me about things, disagree with my opinion if you want. It really is just a venue to share thoughts on life's everyday challenges. Again, it's Good Times with Mo, the podcast. It's on Spotify. Do check it out there. If you don't do Spotify, it's on Apple or any of the other kind of podcast mediums. And then just honestly start your own podcast. Just like Jay here, just like anybody, like Sam O just started her podcast, I think. Go out there. If you've ever had an itch to be in this broadcast world, now's the time to do it. Technology is giving you the best shot at it. And go out there, and even if you don't get any listeners, man, you could do 10 episodes and one person downloads it. Please don't be discouraged. It's still a good way to kind of get stuff off of your chest. And you never know. It might be that one thing where somebody listens to it, it goes viral, and you and I are battling for rankings on podcasts. So do it. Go out there. I encourage you. It's easier now than ever, and you can make money off of it. It's challenging, but it's possible.
All right. Thanks, Mo. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, sir. Yeah. Have a good one.
Okay.
Take care. Be safe.
At the end of the day, it will be night. Goodbye.